HD Weather Team. No matter your age, your plan for retirement can start today. From the News Channel 5 Network, this is the Retirement Report.
Good morning. Welcome to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. All right, we're going to be talking about risks today. One of those things that come into it, 4 common risks that can devastate your retirement, okay, such as longevity risk. This is one of those, in fact, that is the greatest of risks. You may be familiar with things that you've dealt with, like inflation risk. We're concerned about inflation in terms of how it's going to impact our dollars, the spending power, if you will, of our purchasing power of our dollars. So one of the things that comes in with inflation, when inflation is low, as it has been, one of the difficulties that goes with that, lower interest rates, lower inflation, is that we're seeing also low savings rates. So it makes it very difficult when we're trying to find a safe place to put our money to make anything on our money. And the next thing, even when you look at what you can get on a CD, for instance, that's still not enough to stay up with inflation as low as it is and with taxes. All right, so we're losing the purchasing power. We see this erosion. We see when we go to the grocery store and we go to check out, right? You don't have as many groceries to carry out for as much money as you left behind. Have you noticed that, right? What the bill is that much? So that's inflation, and it sneaks up on you. It's kind of like the silent killer of your finances. That's one risk that we have to be concerned about. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to have to make more on our money to stay up, to keep our purchasing power up, so that as prices go up, the amount of money that we have to pay for those increased prices also goes up. Now, the difficulty is it's hard to do that in safe ways, isn't it? Like if we want to put it in, what are those safe things? We talk about the 3 worlds of investing many times on the show, right? In that first world, things like savings accounts, checking accounts, money market accounts, CDs, savings bonds, treasuries, fixed annuities. All of these are things that are safe. They give us guarantees of interest. They give us guarantees we'll get our principal back as well as that interest. There may be penalties if we take out, for instance, a 5-year CD or a 5-year fixed annuity. We know that if we cashed it in early, we're going to have some kind of interest penalty. All of these are common factors that we see. What's the difficulty? Even things like a 10-year CD, only about 2% interest. A 10-year treasury, maybe 2% interest. So where do we put our money to stay ahead of inflation and taxes? This is one of the dilemmas that comes with planning for retirement, whether you're saving for retirement or in retirement and trying to make your money last. So inflation risk is one. Market risk then comes to play, right? Because what do people do when they're trying to avoid inflation risk or trying to get ahead of inflation and taxes? They typically take more risk with their money by investing it in the stock market. Now we've got market risk, all right? Whether it's stocks that you own, where you own a piece of the company, all right, with a stock, you've purchased a part of that company, and you're going to share in its whether it goes up in its growth, or if it goes down, you're also going to share in that loss of value. So that's one of the risks with markets. Bonds, same thing. If I loan the company, which is what a bond is, loaning a corporate or government entity my money for some specified period of time for a set amount of interest, which I'm going to get paid to me about every 6 months. Now, you may own these in mutual funds, these stocks and bonds. It still works the same within those, though it may look a little different on your statements in terms of what you see. But at the end of the year, right, when you're looking at how did my portfolio do, sometimes even when it goes down, you're still going to get that 1099. We're all seeing them this time of year, and it's going to show us what did we get on long-term gains. So even if we didn't sell anything within our mutual fund, maybe they did a lot of trading. And what's going to happen is that's going to generate potential taxes for us in the form of gains. Maybe they've captured some gains, maybe they've had some losses. That's all going to be reflected on our 1099 as well as dividends and interest. So these are some of the things when you're looking to stay ahead of inflation risk, and we go into market risk, so we have to take another risk to try to avoid the first risk. And now that adds another part to it, especially as you get into retirement. There's a unique to retirement type type of risk called sequence of returns. In other words, if I retire and the market goes down within 5 years of my retirement to 5 years before retirement, in other words, to 5 years after retirement, that can have a huge impact on whether or not I'm going to run out of money during my lifetime, which brings up another risk, and that's called longevity risk, okay? And longevity risk is probably the multiplier of all other risks. So if you throw in all the ones I mentioned, inflation, market risk, if you look in interest rate risk, the fluctuations there, if we look at health care costs, long-term care, all these different risks that we're going to have and costs that we're going to have in retirement, longevity is the multiplier of those risks, right? Because what happens if I'm 66 when I retire and God forbid I die 3 or 4 years later? Well, those other risks aren't going to have any impact on my retirement, are they? But the longer I live, and what do we know? For the average 65-year-old, for male, life expectancy is 84. For female, 86. So what does that tell us? That's the average. That means half of us are going to live longer than that. In fact, 25% are going to live well beyond age 90. So now if you're retiring in your 60s, and you're looking at 20, 25, possibly 30 years in retirement without a paycheck. What are you going to do? Okay, we're looking at Social Security as one of those. Maybe you have a pension, but obviously savings are very important as well. Have you put money away in your 401k? Have you got enough that you're going to be able to retire on and provide the income you need to maintain your standard of living and quality of life no matter how long you live? And you see how that works. The longer you live, inflation becomes a bigger issue for you, doesn't it? Market risk, as I mentioned, in sequence of returns, that becomes a bigger deal. Market crashes, all of a sudden, that's a big deal when you're in retirement and you're pulling money out of your retirement accounts. You don't want to have that drop, and what happens? Do you have to take less income? Okay? Or are you going to have to reduce your lifestyle? Because if you don't do one of those, what's the other possibility? Right, you start using up your money faster and you potentially run out of money. So how do you protect yourself against all these risks? Well, that's the kind of thing we're going to be talking about, as well as one of the biggest expenses that goes with this. When you get into these risks, you also have to deal with the cost in retirement as well. Okay, what are your housing costs going to be? Health care costs are a big part of that. And what is one of the biggest resources we're all going to have? Social Security. Okay, how do we make the most of that? When it comes to Social Security income, when's the best time to file? So think of that, and this is where it gets a little bit, when you're talking about Social Security, I'm going to share with you a couple of things here. Let's see, here we go. All right, so on Social Security, one of the things that we get into that you have to weigh in for each person when they come in, they ask me, well, when should I take Social Security? When's the earliest I can take it? I'm going to show you some key ages here. This is the retirement income challenge, all right, that we all face. So we'll get this slide up. Here's what we're going to be looking at. Age 60, what these different ages mean. So at age 55, if you have a 401k, a retirement plan, and let's say whether you're retiring or that's the age at which the first time you can take money out of that without that 10% IRS penalty. So that's age 55. That's important sometimes when it comes to planning in terms of your retirement and what you're doing, whether you keep your money in the 401k and for how long. See, at age 59 and a half, that's the age at which you can take money out of your IRA without that 10% IRS penalty. So if you were going to need money out of a retirement account, you don't want to roll it over into an IRA. In other words, if you're going to need that money between age 55 and 59 and a half to take some money out, you don't want to roll it into an IRA right then, do you? Or at least you need to leave enough in there to be able to take that income. Now, we'll get into some of the differences as far as whether you should or shouldn't move your 401k. There's all kinds of news out there on that, and we'll cover that later. For next age 62. This is the first age at which you can take Social Security. All right, now I qualify. That's the earliest age I can take Social Security, but is that the best time to take Social Security? Sometimes people are very concerned. Well, will it be around? I put this money in, boy, I'm going to get it out while I can. Well, there's some things you need to ask about whether that's the correct time to do it. When's the next time? Well, you can take it any time after that, but the next age that's real important is age 66. That's called your full retirement age. Now, for some, if you're younger, that could go up to as high as 67. But for most, going And I'm talking to right now, if you're heading into retirement, age 66 is your full retirement age. Now, there's some key factors about whether I should take my Social Security at 62 or 66. A big part of the analysis I do every day with new clients that are coming in is we go over for them and answer that question. 62, 66, or possibly even 70, or somewhere in between. If you're going to be working past age 62, there are rules that could take back those benefits based on how much money you make. So normally we say if you're going to work past age 62, definitely postpone taking retirement until then. Now, what are some other things? Well, you look at your own health. Okay, you look at your family history. You know, longevity. Do people tend to live longer in your family? The break-even point between 62 and 66 is typically in that 78 to 82 range, and it varies according to the person. Sometimes it's a little less, sometimes rarely a little bit more. So if you want to find out more about that, that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to be taking a quick break. All right, when we come back, I'm going to delve into more about these key ages, what it means to you, and how you, in fact, can make the right choices, because it can be worth tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars to you over your lifetime. Join us here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.
This is a Storm 5 HD weather update. Sign up for Weather Call at newschannel5.com.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ron Howes from the Storm 5 HD Weather Center. You're looking at radar now, showing any precipitation across the area on this Thursday night. A look at temperatures across the southeastern U.S. And here are the current conditions now in Nashville. Our forecast for tonight, cloudy skies with patchy drizzle or light showers this evening, a low of 36 degrees. Then for tomorrow, mostly cloudy in the morning, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with a high of 50, up to 62 Saturday, 63 on Sunday, even warmer on Monday, a high of 68, 30% chance of showers by Tuesday night, and then a 50% chance of rain on both Wednesday and Thursday, but mild temperatures next week with highs each day in the upper 60s to near 70. This has been a weather update from the Storm 5 HD Weather Center.
I keep forgetting that I'm pregnant. I just run into things and I'm like, oh, there's a belly there.
Once upon a time, Jennifer Goodwin was a clown.
The teacher told me that I was the worst clown he had ever seen.
Well, look at her now. Where are you, clown?
Now, we're tackling your health. From what you need to know about that winter cough.
The cough itself helps anyone out there as a parent figure out what's going on with their children.
To the 4 foodie trends that could help you lose weight.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Next, Rachel.
Today at 9 on News Channel 5.
The Nashville Songwriters Association International invites you to celebrate the songwriter.
I love this week because it's the world's largest songwriter festival.
A singer and guitar and a song.
Guys that wrote a hit song that you were a big fan of.
I'm really proud to be on stage with them. They're all friends of mine.
Regions presents the 24th annual Tin Pan South Songwriters Festival, along with generous supporting sponsors. The festival is April 5th through April 9th. Come catch a great show. See the schedule at tinpansouth.com.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. We're talking about risk in retirement this morning, but this also has to do with risk in preparing for retirement, okay? And we're going over, just before the break, I was showing the Retirement Income Challenge, and I'm going over some key dates. And this goes whether you're planning for retirement or you're heading in, getting close to these ages, it's important for you to know the importance of these dates before you get there, right? So when you're doing your planning, you're knowing, well, this is what I'm, if I'm planning on retiring possibly in my mid-50s, it'd be important for me to know about that rule, about that 10% penalty, right? Because someone might come in, and what's the most common thing you hear? When you retire from your employer, you should move your 401k into your IRA. Well, it depends on your age, and there are some other factors there, and as I mentioned, one of them being if you're going to need income from that money or some amount of cash, then the planning is going to be a little more complex, okay? You're going to be looking at maybe taking that money out, and you want to avoid that 10% penalty, so maybe you leave some money in. Granted, you're going to have more investment options once you move it out, and there are some other potential advantages to it, but it's not just a cut and dried, always one way type of thing. It depends on your individual situation. So there's one. Okay, we talked about age 66 being full retirement age. Here's one I kind of missed over a little bit, age 65. Age 65 is when you first qualify for Medicare. Now, depending on whether you're still working as to what the choices are going to be there, all right? And we're going to get into, in depth, more about Medicare Medicare. It's one of the most complex decisions you're going to have to make in retirement, and it's going to be one of the biggest decisions because healthcare costs are projected to be, for an average couple age 65, to be close to $300,000. That's your out-of-pocket cost. Okay, that's after what Medicare covers. That's even including having a Medicare supplement plan. Okay, that hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this is so critical because the right choices can save you many, many tens of thousands of dollars, reduce that cost possibly in half, maybe even less. And the longer ahead you plan for it, the more you can impact that cost in a positive way. In other words, you can reduce those costs, and that's what we do. That's what I do with my clients all the time. All right, so this is one of the areas. Age 65 again. Now, what's the next one? Age 70. At this point, you've maxed out Social Security. In other words, if you have delayed taking Social Security benefits because you want to get the maximum payment you can from your Social Security benefits, age 70 is when that happens. There's no reason to delay beyond that. There are no benefits to be had. Money's just like, you might as well bury it in a mattress, right? Start taking your money by age 70. And we're going to talk about the different reasons for possibly delaying for some and whether taken early for others. And then age 70 and a half, that's the age at which you have to now start taking money out of your retirement accounts. Okay, that's what's called required minimum distributions. The IRS has allowed you to defer taxes, okay, on the money that you have put in. You didn't pay tax on it up front. You put it in there to save it. Now they want you to, they're going to make you start taking money out so that they can get the taxes on that money. Now, what's important to know also, at that age 55 and at age 59 and a half, those two key ages, that 10% tax penalty that we want to avoid by knowing the importance of those ages. Well, it's even more important at age 70 and a half because it's a 50% penalty if you don't take out that required minimum distribution. So it's critically important. And what we do when we're doing income planning in retirement, of course, we always factor in the required minimum distributions. And we get into things talking about ways possibly to reduce that, okay, whether it's through tax planning, whether it's through Roth conversions, things like that that can help you with regard to those required minimum distributions and reducing taxes, because that's another key area as far as risk in retirement. Okay, so let's talk about Social Security a little bit more. One of the things that we have, if you look at the next slide we're going to put up, this is the retirement income challenge and has to do with the difficulty that we all face. All right, those things are, one, asset and product allocation. This has to do with growth. We need our money to grow, right? We talked about inflation and taxes. Well, we need our money to grow to stay ahead. And that's the challenge that we face. How do we do that and yet minimize risk in the process? Another challenge, income. When we're taking, in retirement, we have to now start taking income from those monies. We're going to need that to supplement our retirement. We're going to have, maybe we have, again, we are going to have Social Security. Maybe we're going to have a pension. Maybe we have other forms of income. Maybe you have rental properties as an example. But whatever it is, the next part, the biggest thing that a lot of rely on statistically is that, besides Social Security, is that, of course, of how much we've been able to save, our retirement accounts. So when we're taking income from them, one of the key factors is not only do I need enough income to supplement, to basically maintain my standard of living and quality of life, but I need to make sure I minimize taxes, don't I? And I want to minimize risk because I don't want to run out of money. I need that income. If you think about it, what's more important? Building up a lot of assets or building up something that's going to be guaranteed income for life? All right? A lot of people build up assets and then go broke, run out of money, and then where are they? Okay? They're dependent upon Social Security main. And that makes it really, they may have to greatly reduce that standard of living or quality of life. Okay, so one of the key areas here is that income is probably one of the biggest factors for happiness in retirement. In fact, it is the biggest factor. There have been studies, in fact, to even show that this research shows us that people are happier that have that guaranteed income for life that covers their needs as far as standard of living and quality of life. Those are the folks that have the most peace of mind, and those are the people we talk about. When we're talking about financial freedom in retirement, that's financial freedom in retirement. When you have guaranteed income, it says, I don't have to worry, I'm never going to run out of money, I'm going to be covered. Okay, risk management is the other part. If I'm going to do that, how do I protect those assets as well? How do I make sure I don't lose my money? Because one of the biggest fears that people have in retirement is running out of money. is one of the three major fears, in fact, that people have. And this goes back to, how do I make sure this doesn't happen? Well, one of them, it starts with that Social Security decision. All right, do you have someone you're seeing right now to help you with these kinds of decisions? Because this is one of the things we do each and every week, all right? I talk to you about it here, but in my office each and every day, I also work with people to help them with that. So here's what I'm going to do for the first 10 callers today to my office. Debbie's standing by to take your calls. The number is 615-376-5325. We're going to offer up a free retirement income analysis. And with that, what we're going to do is we're going to help you with that decision about Social Security. In 2012, over 37% of men and 42% of women took their benefits at age 62 rather, permanently reducing their benefits. Okay? Now, for some, that may have been the right choice, but for many, it may have been the absolute wrong choice. One of the things I do is I work with clients to determine what is the best choice in their situation, and we ask them the key questions and take down their key information to find that out. So when you call the office, Debbie will get your information. She'll send you out a little checklist of things to bring to the appointment, and we're going to do a plan for you. This isn't just a free consultation where you get in, you come in, and you talk to me for an hour, and you go away with, maybe you got a few questions answered, but what real value is that? I'm talking about a full-blown free retirement income analysis. That means a financial plan, okay, a foundational plan. We're going to go over everything with you. Typically, I charge $500 to $1,500, and on some cases where we've got higher assets and stuff, that could be even $3,000 to $5,000. So one of the things we're going to get into, free retirement plan, that's what we're talking about. She'll get your information, she'll send you out a checklist, and she'll send you a copy of my book, 7 Steps to Financial Freedom in Retirement. And if you go through the book, you'll see a lot of the things we're going to cover, but we're going to help you develop your own personalized plan for retirement. All right? So here's some questions to ask yourself. What is your current health and expected longevity? This is one of the things when we get into Social Security, whether we should take our money out at 62 or 66 or 70. So what do you know? At 62, that's the soonest you can take it, but it's also when you get the least amount. And if you're continuing to work, it's for about every $15,000 give or take that you make over, $15,000 for every $1 you make over, $2 you make over, you get back $1 of your Social Security. So we tell people normally just rule of thumb. If you're going to work past 62, don't take Social Security until later, age 66 ideally, or when you are fully retired would be the earliest you would even consider it. Now, we do a side-by-side comparison for people. We show, here's your 62 age, here's 66. We're going to run it both ways so you can see in advance what that decision amounts to. And what is it going to show us? It's going to show us the effect on your retirement capital. So when we look at your capital, what's going to happen is it's going to show at age 62, if I take here, how much money will I have in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years down the road? And if I wait till 66, how much would I have? Or even if I wait till age 70, how much would I have 10, 15, 20 years down the road? And we're going to be able to show you at what point that decision reaches like a break even. Usually say in your late 70s as an example, then it's equal. Whether I took it 66 or 62 or 66, either one, it makes about the same. But if I live much beyond that, and what did we say? The average for every 65-year-old is expected to live at least 5 to 7 years beyond that time, then they would benefit by waiting. All right? And here's another. There are other key factors that come into this. For instance, if you're married, all right, delaying that retirement means more money potentially for your spouse, because this is one of the areas you have to also consider, is that when the first of you dies, the survivor gets the higher check of the two Social Security checks. One goes away, the higher one goes to the spouse. This comes into play again. Well, which one should I do? That could be a big factor as well. So when you're looking at Social Security and when to take it, there are a lot of questions that you have to ask yourself, including what other savings and investments. Do you have the option to be able to delay? For some, maybe the choices aren't so easy. Okay, they don't have enough money to cover it. You know, are you going to continue to work, as I mentioned, is a key factor. What kind of taxable income are you going to have in retirement? So there's so many different factors that we get into to help you decide what is the best choice. And believe me, it's huge. You're talking tens of thousands of dollars more in your pocket, possibly even hundreds of thousands, by making the right choice. And it means it could cost you that much if you make the wrong choice. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Join us here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.
Each year, 68 million Americans leave the safety of our borders. Some of their journeys take an unexpected detour.
This isn't funny, Dad!
Into the criminal mind. He's hunting them.
FBI, drop your weapon!
Gary Sinise returns to CBS.
Now we have 2 innocent Americans. They're in hostile surroundings. We've got to get them out of there.
Criminal Minds Beyond Borders. Series premiere Wednesday, March 16th.
From your news and information leader, this is a News Channel 5 update.
And good Friday morning, everyone. I'm Steve Hayslip, live downstairs in the newsroom with some news this morning. In just about a half an hour, the closing argument should get started in that $75 million civil lawsuit between Erin Andrews, well-known sportscaster, and the Nashville Marriott at Vanderbilt. Final witnesses took the stand yesterday, including a Marriott hotel desk employee and ESPN analyst Jesse Palmer. The jury is expected to deliberate sometime this afternoon. We'll be in the courtroom today. You can look for updates on air and online on NewsChannel5.com. Police are looking for a teenager who went missing more than a week ago. Adriana Lucado was last seen near Columbia Avenue down in Franklin. Officials say the 18-year-old ran away after a disagreement with a guardian on February 21st. You see her picture right there. If you know where she may be, contact the Franklin Police Department. Leland has your weekend forecast coming up in just a moment. Stay with us, everybody.
If you have allergy congestion, muddling through your morning is nothing new. Your nose is the only thing on your mind. And to get relief, anything is fair game. Introducing Rhinocort Allergy Spray from the makers of Zyrtec. Powerful relief from your most frustrating nasal allergy symptoms all day and all night. Hasn't your nose been through enough already? Try new Rhinocort Allergy Spray. Muddle no more.
It's here, the Ross Spring Dress Event. Looking for a new spring dress for the latest styles where you'll spend less. You gotta go to Ross. These are the same great brands you'll find at department stores. Florals and lace? Check. Patterns or solids? Take your pick. So be pretty in yellow, navy, or white. Or at Ross prices, get them all. The Ross Spring Dress Event on now.
I was walking home, just picked us up 2 breakfast croissants for $4 when this bear attacked. With one swipe, it devoured one of the croissants. Then Jack showed up and took care of the beast so I could escape.
And that's what happened to your breakfast croissant.
And yours?
It survived.
Share it with yourself. Freshly cracked egg with ham and bacon or sausage. Get 2 breakfast croissants for $4.
Almost 8:30 now on a Friday morning. We are inching closer to the weekend. Right now, this is Skycam, and you can see the cloud cover that's out there for us at this point. Temperature here in Nashville is 43, relative humidity 86%. A wind on the light side, but a good north wind, and the cloud cover will keep our daytime highs only in the upper 40s to right around the 50-degree mark for you a bit later. From Murfreesboro, our camera there showing 43 as we overlook the courthouse from our camera at One Public Square. On the west side of town from St. Thomas Hospital, a 46 your way right now, and Lawrenceburg, you're mostly cloudy and a current temperature reading of 43. Most of you dry as we check out the Power of 5. There's been just a little green showing up. There may have been a stray sprinkle here or there, but no big deal with any of that. The bigger story is just the cloud cover and how the cloud cover is going to hang tough over the Mid-South for today. Right now, the temps are in the upper 30s and lower 40s. Cookeville 39, Crossville 37, 42 from the Queen City. Camden right now reporting in at 44. 4 degrees. A bit later today, those temps hitting the upper 40s to right around the 50-degree mark. So a lot of cloud cover for you today. A look at your 7-day forecast in minutes.
Time does not build trust. Outstanding journalism over time builds trust. Every day, every year, every decade, you get our best. In breaking news,
let's go right now to
investigations,
what happens to the public's money,
severe weather coverage.
Your safe place right now.
There is only one leader. News Channel 5 is your #1 source for news. Your news and information leader. The Power of 5 live radars from the Storm 5 weather team.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. All right, one of the things we've been talking about this morning, the Retirement Income Challenge. Okay, we're going to get another slide up. This has to do, there are certain risks before retirement, and then there are risks you're going to have after retirement. So, for instance, risk before retirement, such as market loss. We're always concerned about the market volatility and potential market losses. And understand something here that's really so important. I hear this so many times from people that, you know, there's this common, it's like a stereotypical type of response that you're going to get from many advisors out there, is that when you're in the market and the market is going down, to don't worry, it'll come back. Well, that's true. And if you look at the history of the stock market, it's always going to trend up. Okay. However, when it's trending down versus trending up, what impact is that going to have? You know, when you retire, I talk about sequence of return. Is your investment advisor saying to you, well, don't worry, it's going to come back, but you know, sequence of return, you're saying, well, if I'm needing to take money out now, what about that? Are they having that conversation with you of how to protect your assets so that as you're taking money out and the market's dropping at the same time, okay, it can be the difference between coming back and not coming back from these market losses. In fact, Tony Robbins in his book, Money Matters, showed 2 examples of this. If you look at, and I've showed them here on the show before, and this is where sequence of returns comes in. And he shows 2 people retiring at the same age, okay, at around 65 years of age. All right, the first one, and they both earn the same amount on their investments, 8%. Can you imagine, right? You'd say, I'd love to earn 8% on my money. So he's showing 8% rate of return on both these people. One, we'll say Bob and Mary. Okay, Bob retires at 65, he's earning 8%, but the market drops in the first 3 years, similar to what it did 2000 through 2002 as an example. Okay, Bob starts with $500,000 that he has saved up for retirement. He's going to take 5% or $25,000 a year in income from that $500,000, and Bob's going to have to adjust that for inflation because, of course, he wants to maintain his standard of living and quality of life. So that $25,000 that starts out when he first retires, 10 years later, of course, that's going to be more like maybe $32,000, $33,000 to buy the same amount of things due to inflation. So Bob's taking that 5% out to start with, that $25,000. He's adjusting for inflation. And what happens over the next 20 years? Bob takes out close to $600,000 from his account, and he is broke. He's done. His money is gone. Okay, and yet he was earning 8% return and taking 5%. How could that happen? Okay, sequence of return. Because of that market drop, even though then he started getting gains, that put him behind. And it was the difference between, as Tony Robbins being a homeless camper in his situation. Now let's talk about Mary, the happy camper. Mary also starts out with $500,000. Mary also is going to earn 8%. The difference is the market in Mary's first few years of retirement goes on a bull run and goes on a nice, her investment portfolio grows, in fact. Mary also is taking 5%, $25,000 a year, and she's also adjusting for inflation. What happens 20 years later for Mary? Well, Mary has taken out over $900,000 from her account, almost double what Bob took out. And what else has happened? Mary has also got $1.5 million left. She started with $500,000, took out $900,000, still has $1.5 million left 20 years later. That is the impact of sequence of return. Is your investment advisor talking to you about that? Are you aware of just how important that is? As he said, the difference between being the homeless camper and the happy camper, right? So it's so critical in your planning to understand that risk, and you can deal with it, okay? Now, we don't know what the market's going to do. No one knows, right? We don't know over the next 2 years, 3 years, 5, 10 years. We can look at certain things, I can tell you. I can tell you, for instance, that according to Robert Shiller, who won the Dr. Shiller won the Nobel Prize, economist out of Yale, won the Nobel Prize in 2013 in economics for his research in equity markets, development of the what's known as the Cape-Shiller Index, a great predictor of long-term market returns. And he's saying you're looking at maybe a 4% return over the next 8 to 10 years. That's what you can expect. Someone like John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard Funds, recently in an article said the same thing. He said if you look at stocks, U.S. stocks over the next 10 years, his expectation is about a 4% return. So you're going to have a tremendous amount of volatility, and that goes where that sequence of returns can really come in, right? And what are you going to get, 4%? Okay, what's inflation and taxes going to be like over that period? How do you plan against those things? There are ways to develop a portfolio to earn still more on your money safely, okay, and there are other alternatives I've shared with you on the show before. What we're going to talk about then, it goes back to another part. So how you protect your money, how you minimize taxes, all of these are going to be very, very critical to making sure you don't run out of money and that you're able to maintain your standard of living and quality of life. All right, so when you get into risk in retirement, before retirement, I talked about it, right? Market loss, inflation. What about risk in retirement? Now we got market loss, inflation, outliving our assets, right? That longevity risk, inadequate income for the surviving spouse. Isn't that kind of important? For a couple, don't you want to make sure that when the first of you passes, that survivor is still going to be able to maintain their standard of living and quality of life no matter how long they live? And one of the big ones that we're going to talk about is healthcare costs. This, again, can amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And a lot of people have this misconception that when you get age 65 and you qualify for Medicare, that that your worries are over. And unfortunately, that's just not the case. So we're going to talk about that. Before I do, though, I'm going to offer again for the first 10 callers to my office, 615-376-5325. I'm going to offer up a retirement income analysis. Okay, so that retirement income analysis means we're going to give you a full-blown financial plan, investment analysis, when to take and get the most out of Social Security, how to minimize, we're talking tax planning, how to minimize taxes. We'll talk to you about Roth conversions, whether they're right for you or not, answer all the questions and concerns you might have. We're even going to talk to you about estate planning. We can review things that current policies you have, insurance policies, life policies, annuity policies, long-term care policies. I mean, this is a lot that we're going to offer up to you at no cost. But again, for the first 10 callers, 615-376-5325. Debbie's standing by at the office. She'll take your information. She'll send you out a checklist of things to bring to make sure that we're able to provide those benefits to you. And she'll send you a free copy of my book, 7 Steps to Financial Freedom in Retirement. All right? One of the things when it comes to planning for retirement is this healthcare choice. So one of the things that we're looking at, for instance, Social Security. Okay, when to make it? Do I take it at 62, 66, or 70? As I said, that's one of the things we're going to cover with you, and it's different for every person on this area, right? And keeping in mind the difference is huge. I mean, you're talking about potentially 65% difference, okay, by taking it, say, age 70 versus 62. So if you think about that, 2/3 more money. In other words, the difference between $1,000 and $1,200 a month and maybe $3,000 a month. Okay, so that's kind of a big decision, and a lot of it has to do with some of the questions I'd asked earlier. We get into that with you, of course, individually. Now, the other is healthcare costs. Probably one of the most complex things you're going to have to deal with. You know, one of the things I want to, if you've been watching a show for, I've been on the show for many years. If you've been watching and regularly, you know that I talk a lot about a lot of different areas that have to do with retirement, about tax planning, about your investments, about insurance, about minimizing risk, estate planning. I mean, we get into all the different areas. And the reason I do comprehensive planning, okay, because if I just focus on the one thing, back when I first started out, got my securities license, and I'm just doing investments and stuff, one of the things, you can do the best planning in the world with regard to the returns that you're making on your money, but if you're getting eaten up by taxes, or you get hit with heavy market losses, or that you take an income and you get hit with a sequence of returns issue, then what happens, all right? All that money that you made just starts dwindling away, and of what value was that if we didn't do the planning, in other words, to help protect? And I realized I had to do more than just investments. Okay, I have to get to, if I'm going to really be of value to my clients, I have to be able to help them with all these different areas, and I can't do all those things all alone, so I also learned that I've got to work with their accountants, okay? Or if they don't have one, then I'll bring one in, okay? You've seen Dr. Friday on the show as an example. Or I'll bring in an estate planning attorney or a real estate attorney, whatever the needs may be. We'll see if they've got somebody that they trust and they've got a long-term relationship that is an expert in these areas. I'm happy to work with them and do it all the time. If they don't have that person, I'll bring that person in, and we'll again work as a team to give you the best plan for your specific needs. And this comes again back full circle. Social Security is one of those areas, okay? Yes. When it comes to Social Security planning, when I'm talking about with my clients about when to take Social Security, and here's the other one, Medicare costs. This has got to be one of the most complex issues that you're going to deal with, and it's one of the biggest expenses you're going to have in retirement. Most studies are in fact saying it's the second biggest, next only to housing. The expenses that you're going to have in retirement is health care. So let's talk about healthcare costs. Again, one of the areas that we're finding with healthcare, when you reach age 65, they say you now qualify for Medicare. So for the first example, let's talk about you're 65, you qualify for Medicare, what now? Okay, what am I getting? For a lot of us, we think maybe, and a lot of people that came in, I know that come in to see me, one of the things they're thinking, oh, once I get to Medicare, now I don't have to worry about healthcare costs. They don't realize they're going to have a lot of out-of-pocket costs still. All right, so what kind of costs are they going to have? Well, we're talking about the parts of Medicare. There's Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D. What does all this mean? What these are coverages. These are you're going to have deductibles and co-insurance. You're going to have premiums in some instances. Well, when I come back, I'm going to take a break. When I come back, I'm going to dig into what is Part A, what Part B, what Part C, what Part D, what are these Medicare supplement plans you're talking about, what do these things cover, what don't they cover, and how much are they going to cost me? All right, all of that when we return. Join us here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.
People with a lawyer get 3 times more money than people without one. Maybe that's why we're the law firm Middle Tennesseans trust after a car accident.
Looking for a job? Thinking of a career change? Watch Inside Workforce Development and get the inside scoop on the local job market. Discover opportunities for new careers, see who's hiring, and get helpful tips to help you land that dream job. Watch Inside Workforce Development Saturday morning at 7:30 on News Channel 5+. This episode of Inside Workforce Development is sponsored by the Tennessee Council on Developmental Disabilities.
Chef Patty here. Why should you include avocados as part of your family's balanced diet? It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. Number 1. Avocados fill you up. Avocados contain unsaturated fats, good fats your body needs to help with the absorption of key nutrients.
Me hungry right now.
Number 2.
Avocados are good for you.
Avocados are naturally cholesterol and sodium free, plus they contain nearly 20 vitamins and nutrients.
Me need vitamins and nutrients. And number 3, avocado delicious.
Try avocados in place of ingredients higher in saturated fat. Avocados taste great in sandwiches, salads, and even in baked goods like cookies.
Avocado cookies? This match made in heaven.
Mornings move fast.
Hermitage family loses everything in a fire.
They made it out safely.
Feed your need to know with News Channel 5 this morning.
A FedEx truck flips on the interstate.
Up when you are and updating all morning long. News Channel 5 this morning. Watch on any screen starting weekdays at 4 a.m.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. All right, we've been talking about a lot of risk in retirement. Now we're getting into one of the big ones that you're going to have to make decisions about, and this is healthcare costs. And this is one of the biggest risk. This could be hundreds of thousands out of pocket after what Medicare covers. Okay, so let's talk about the decisions you're going to have to make with regard to Medicare. Now, maybe you're already retired. Maybe you're already, in fact, receiving Medicare benefits. You still have open enrollment periods where you can make changes and things to that. So this can still be of value and benefit to you, not to mention how you cover those costs, making sure with regard to how you're invested, what kind of income you have, how you can make sure that you can still cover your health care costs, still be able to get the care, of course, that you need without having to worry about running out of money. So still, you know, this is going to apply for everyone. All right, healthcare cost dilemma. All right, this is one of the areas. Healthcare spending has far outpaced inflation over the last decade. All right, you're talking about an inflation rate on healthcare of 5.8%. Okay, that's more than double the rate of inflation at 2.3%. Okay, now here's what else we found. And this is a survey that was done by the Employee Benefit Research Institute. One of the things with healthcare costs, it can have a significant impact on your finances. 38% of people surveyed have difficulty paying their bills. 27% use up their savings, end up without any money, and 16% in fact have to borrow money in retirement just to cover their healthcare costs. This is a dilemma. Okay, the retirement, we're going to show up a chart here. This is a percentage of private sector workers employed by establishment offering health insurance to retirees. See, this is one of the areas, right? Used to be you would retire, just like with pensions, you'd have a pension and you would have health care coverage through your employer. But as you can see by the chart, that number is dropping off dramatically. Fewer employers are covering retiree health insurance. In addition, the retirees who are covered by employer plans face raising premiums, higher out-of-pocket expenses, and stricter eligibility requirements. So many employees are not obligated to continue health care coverage, so sometimes they just drop it if they increase the cost for the retiree, or they end up dropping it altogether. So this is one of those areas, and what do you do? All right, because this is one of the ways that we used to be able, okay, in the past, maybe our parents or our grandparents, right, they didn't have maybe those same concerns that we're going to have in retirement today. So one of the things, the next slide is, this has to do with consumer estimate of annual health care costs in retirement. And this is the part where people don't, you know, most of the people that I see, in fact, that come in don't really recognize just how much health care is going to cost. And when you look at it, 68%, in fact, according to a nationwide study, 68% have underestimated or don't know what their medical costs are going to be. Okay, so you're looking at only about 20% of people, in other words, actually recognize that they're going to have significant out-of-pocket costs in retirement. So let's look at, what about Medicare? Let's talk about myths and facts. So on the next slide, in fact, one of the things you see, one of the myths is that Medicare will cover your medical most or all of your medical expenses. And that's just a myth. It doesn't happen. The fact is, it covers only about 62% of those out-of-pocket costs. Another myth, Medicare will cover my long-term care needs. Medicare does not cover long-term care. Okay? This is so important to understand this. All right, you can get very minimal coverage with regard to, you know, maybe 90 to 100 days. This is not long-term care. This has to do more with therapy type things, with rehabilitation from surgeries or strokes or that kind of thing. This is not covering your long-term care needs. So one of the things, if you understand then how Medicare works and understanding health care, the next slide will be health care expenses. Medicare cost-sharing provisions, about 45%. Premiums to Medicare Part B and D, 32%. So this is breaking down your health care costs. Nearly half of your expenses of Medicare cost-sharing provisions, such as co-pays, deductibles, premiums, and out-of-pocket expenses not covered. And estimated that, again, for a couple retiring now will need somewhere between $250,000 to $400,000 to cover the out-of-pocket cost. All right, so let's go now to the next slide, understanding Medicare. We're going to talk about the options here. This is where it gets down to the choices you're going to be having to make when you retire. So option one, you have original Medicare, Part A and Part B. So Part A, everyone gets. That's hospitalization. There's no premium to be paid for that. There still are going to be some out-of-pocket costs potentially. Part B, that's your outpatient cost, okay? Here again, now you're going to have a premium, and that premium you're going to have to pay can be deducted, for most people it's deducted from your Social Security income. Next is secondary insurance, such as a Medicare supplement plan, and of course you may want prescription coverage, and that's your Part D. That also has a premium cost to it. And then there's another option, this is called Part C, or Medicare Advantage plans, which can cover all of those, hospitalization, medical, and prescription, though again you're still going to have potential out-of-pocket costs, and this is where the shopping comes in. So let's break it down a little bit. Let's look at the next slide, understanding health care. Option one, let's say Medicare Part A. Okay, this is your hospitalization insurance. So day 1 through 60, right, you've got a $1,280, no premium cost, so it doesn't cost anything for this. But what happens if you go in the hospital? Well, for day 1 through 60 in the hospital, you have a $1,288 deductible. You have to pay the first $1,300. Day 61 through 90, $322 per day copay. This goes into skilled nursing facilities, okay? Home health care, again, $644 per day copay. Hospice, and this is only in that, once you get past these days, okay, that listed in the chart, there's no coverage after that, you're on your own. Hospice, all costs. So other than the hospitalization part, that deductible that you have to pay, you've got coverage for that, but again, the potential out-of-pocket cost, depending on what kind of care you're going to need, can be quite significant. All right, the next slide, we're talking about Medicare Part B. This is your outpatient for your doctors, providers, that type of thing. Preventative benefits, durable medical equipment, outpatient services. So here you're going to have a monthly premium. Now it's based on what's called that MAGI you see. That's modified adjusted gross income. So there's a formula that they use based on your income as to how much your premium is going to be. For most of us, that's going to be at about $105 a month. But if you make, and you're in higher income levels, you can see 2-3 times that amount that you would have to pay in premium for Part B. And you're still going to have that $166 deductible. You're still going to have a 20% coinsurance on doctor services and outpatient care. So the next part comes into how do I cover that? And again, we get into those premiums on the next slide. Is actually going to show you your Medicare Part B monthly premium. So on this one, let's take a look at the next slide, Courtney. And this is where we break out, for instance, on that $85,000 or less, if what you're going to pay that $105. If you make up to $170,000 for filing joint tax returns, single individual, in other words, $85,000 for joint, $170,000, $104, $105, and then you can see as your income goes up, your premiums go up to as high as potentially for those making over $200,000, $389 a month. That's relatively new, started back in 2007. So that's one cost that we all are going to share in Part B. All right, next is Medicare Part D. This is your prescription drug coverage. Now, on your prescription drug coverage, there again, this is one, by the way, as I mentioned with Part B, that's usually paid, deducted right from your Social Security. Part D, you have the option. You're actually getting that through a private insurer, but you're going to have the ability to choose from that, in other words, compare prices with different carriers. So it can vary a little bit. You want to configure at about $30 a month for that, give or take, for a Part D. So, and then you're still going to have deductibles and coinsurance. There's a thing called a donut hole where you reach a certain cap, then there's no coverage, and then coverage picks up again. So your out-of-pocket cost, depending on prescription costs, I've got people that come into my office that are paying literally, and this may seem crazy if you've never had anyone that you know of or you've not experienced yourself, literally $10,000 a month for one prescription. okay, that they absolutely need, okay, this isn't an option. So prescription costs to them is extremely important, and how to cover that cost to minimize that is so important as well. So Part D for them is going to be really important, but they're going to have still a lot of out-of-pocket. Nothing like, of course, at $10,000 a month, right? Think about that. My goodness, that's like $120,000 a year. So you know, these are the kinds of things planning for in retirement that you need to know. So let's take a look at the next one on option 1, Medicare Part D prescription drug. So let's break, that's that donut hole I was talking to you about. So the monthly premiums, again, it can vary according to the carrier. The annual deductible also can vary. Co-pays 25%. That coverage gap, that donut hole between $3,300 and $7,000. So you got about a $3,700 potential out of pocket just on that part alone. And then after $5,000 is out of pocket, then you've about 5% copay after that. So again, $5,000 a year, depending on type of prescription coverages that you have. How are you going to cover that? We're going to talk about these two things, all right? Because that's where we get into where the options come in. Okay, Medicare sub. So you got A, B, and D. Okay, hospitalization, outpatient, and your drug coverage. Now we got there's Part C or Medicare supplement. Which one are we going to take? All right, which one's going to make most sense? Medicare supplement plan is going to be that is basically to help cover those deductibles and co-insurances that are not covered under the first, under A, B, and D. All right. However, it provides no prescription coverage. So that's one of the differences with Medicare supplement plans. Medicare Advantage, which is also known as Part C, there you can get prescription coverage, and depending on what you're going to be dealing with as to what that cost is going to be. In other words, now we got to shop plans. With Medicare supplement plans, there are 10 different plans to choose from, okay, all with differences. You may need some help with this, okay? It's really complicated. The next is on your Medicare Part C, same thing, lots of choices, lots of differences, so it's important to understand the difference, and I'm going to help you with that as soon as we return. But first, a quick break. Join us here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.
TV personality Cheryl Underwood. How she survived the unthinkable. Next, Inside Edition, her troubled life and secret pain.
It destroys your self-esteem.
The private tears of a TV host. Then, Donald Trump versus Fox News' Megyn Kelly, round 2. What our body language expert reveals. Watch the next Inside Edition.
Today at 4:30 on News Channel 5.
Should be.
On this Friday, a fair amount of cloud cover over Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky, and a couple of spots there may be an isolated sprinkle or a stray brief shower this morning. Clouds hanging tough all day long, my friend. 49 later today, 35 tonight. Tomorrow's high 62, 63 on Sunday. Now in the next week, here comes some more rain chances. 70 on Tuesday. Showers and even a few thunderstorms are possible for Wednesday and Thursday.
He's the Oscar-winning Best Actor.
The coldest day was something like 40 below. It was a doozy.
Ellen's talk show exclusive with Leonardo DiCaprio.
So what's the scariest thing you've ever done?
I was on a plane and the engine exploded.
I definitely will not fly with you for sure.
Plus, telenovelas Eva Longoria stars in Ellen's soap opera.
I've come to give you this.
Today at 3 on News Channel 5.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. All right, covered a lot of stuff today, and one of the things that we're left with is Medicare supplements and Medicare Advantage and making those comparisons. That's going to be more than we have time to cover today. So again, because there's 10 different kind of Medicare supplement plans I want to go into with you, what the differences are, as well as Medicare Advantage, all the differences there, difference in cost, difference in coverage, and how important it is to make the right choice. So we're going to need more time for that. You're going to join us here next week. Or if you can't wait, come see me, okay, for the first 10 callers to my office, 615-376-5325. You can get a free retirement income analysis, and I'll cover all this information, of course, as I do each and every time with my clients, is how to make the right choices with regard to Social Security and Medicare costs. All right? So join us here, because we'll be right back next week on the Retirement Report.
Your life is